No, for the folks that are watching online, I'm Steve Justice, and I'm here with Karen Rands, who's the compassionate
Capitalist.
capitalist.
Compassionate capitalist.
Yeah, I get the academy.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit, how did you get here? What's your background that would lead you to this point? Give us the 90 seconds of, 90 seconds, I know it's gonna be hard for you to do, but of how you got, and everybody knows you here, I can hear that already. Okay, give it 120 seconds. Okay. But what brought you to this point of, being compassionate capitalist?
Okay, so the short version of that, without going all the way back to like how I discovered angel investing and became part of the angel investor group, but I had adopted when I first joined, I went into the angel investor group, and the guy that founded it wanted to somebody to take it over, so he was mentoring me. And I'd never met angel investors, didn't really know what that was until I went into this group, and the Network of Business Angels and Investors, that's the group that I ended up managing for a decade plus. And I remember talking to this first investor I met, and I said, so how did you become an angel investor? Like, how did you learn how to do this? How did you hear about it? He said, well, I exited my company. I had like a golden parachute. I got invited. This was he was out of Jacksonville. And he said, I got invited to this group. I came, I invested in a few deals, lost my money, and then I finally figured out how to do it. And I was like, that's a hell of a way to learn how to be an angel investor. Learn by losing? You got to have some serious fortitude or other motivations besides just the money to do that. And it kind of planted a seed in my mind that, that evolved into, I'd heard this term compassionate capitalist in a different context before, but I said, okay, so angel investors, these are millionaires that are doing this because they expect to make money. And we are a capitalist society. I was on, Jay did it in the back there, he had me on his podcast yesterday, we were recording it. And he had sort of asked that because sometimes capitalism or being a capitalist, and is like, oh, is that good or bad or whatever? I said, well, it is the reason why innovation happens. It is the reason why jobs get created, because companies get built because somebody is expecting to make their hard work is going to get paid off. That they have the ability to achieve whatever they want to achieve, and that happens in a capitalist society. So but some people are bad capitalists, right? And so that's where it gets a bad name. But in general, it's a good thing. When it comes to being compassionate, is that it's not just buying and selling. Like, you can buy and sell stocks, and make money and be a capitalist, or buy and sell real estate and make money. But when you decide to invest in a company, in an entrepreneur that is doing something that is that's solving a problem you care about, or they're a business that you like and love, like what we're trying to do here is like local, regular Main Street businesses can also tap into this kind of capital. Then you're investing in a company that you're passionate about. You're investing in a problem that you're passionate about, and that's where over the years, to simplify it, it became compassionate capitalist, because expect to make money, but you're doing it because you want to have an impact with your money and more than what you can in any other kind of asset.
Yeah, I think one of the keys that you talked about is that, and I actually read some there, just didn't flip through the book. Invest in things that you know about or you're passionate about. You talked about that a little bit. In aviation, we have a saying, no bucks, no Buck Rogers. Whoever has the money has the technology, and who has the technology stays on top. That's not me, that's Tom Wolfe, the right stuff. But so, talk a little bit more about that part of it, that you're not just in it to make the money, you're working with folks that you're interested in, that you have an interest in this sector, or you have an interest in this company, and how that's a little bit different relationship than maybe most investment transactions.
Well, so I think angel investors that I know that end up making mistakes is that they'll just follow the crowds, like not in the form of crowdfunding, but they'll the whole idea of lemmings, right? And so you can see a lot of examples, and we were actually talking about this, if y'all remember Theranos, right? She's got convicted for fraud and there was so much money that put in there, and bad money after bad money. I mean, like good money after bad money, because she was not disclosing her technology, if she had, the IP worked, what's the results, the accurate financials. There was no transparency there. And so people were, but because other people had invested in it, they were throwing money in and they weren't really, they were just trying to do it because they thought they were gonna make money, right? Instead of, really understanding what is it that they're doing. And you can be patient with your money when you believe in what the company is doing. And so part of what I teach and what I talk about with Jane, because particularly when you first get started, it is really easy to be overwhelmed by all the opportunities that are out there, and so many entrepreneurs that are doing stuff that when you'll be like, oh, I didn't even know that was a problem, and what a great solution, right? I want it because they've got a great pitch, or they're very charismatic. But then, so it's much better to figure out, and part of the process is, what's our earned knowledge and what's our learned knowledge. So our learned knowledge is what we, go to school for, and we've got, we have that, but then we earn knowledge because sometimes we're working in some job that's not what we went to school for, or we have hobbies and things that we do, or things that we're interested in. We develop knowledge about stuff that you can tap into and apply when you see a company that's doing something. So my recommendation is always figure out what it is that you care about, and then you find the companies that are in that space, and then you narrow down your focus for that in particular, so that you can, invest in what you know, and you feel more confident in it about when you take it, because you are writing checks out of your own checking account. So, venture capitalists play with other people's money. And so this is, so it's really important to feel really good about that.
Well, let's pull the string on that last statement you made, because one of the things I got from this is you talked about democratizing investment, that you don't have to be multimillionaire to be able to participate in this. So talk a little more about that.
Well, see, so that's really the first book, Inside Secrets to Angel Investing. I wrote in response to the Jobs Act, which is, where equity crowdfunding became legal, and the reason why that was so important, and one of the things that I realized when I was running my angel investor group, is that lots of companies have valid business opportunities to invest in, but there's just simply not enough capital out there, right? And so that's the problem that we're trying to solve. But so what happened, if you think about the Great Recession, was that we had all these people that lost money because of the financial collapse of the real estate market, as well as the stock market that was triggered by that financial collapse of the real estate market. And so many people lost their retirement, right? They lost some of the homes that they had invested in that was going to be their rental properties. They lost what their 401k was in the stock market. It took a decade for the stock market to come back and for real estate to come back. And at the same time, entrepreneurs that were starting up couldn't get bank loans, there wasn't a lot of capital available because of the financial situation that was going on. So Congress came together and almost unanimously passed the Jobs Act. And we call it, the word economic democratization of the capital markets became this tongue twister that, was sort of invented at that time. And the purpose of that was because prior to the Jobs Act, the only way for entrepreneurs to raise capital was to go to the millionaires they knew, or go through a broker-dealer that represented millionaires, or go to an angel group that was sort of the gateway to the millionaires. And so if you didn't know millionaires because of where you grew up, or you went to a community college, or things like that, you didn't know, you were like, I don't know how to do that. And so they looked at reward-based crowdfunding, which is where you gave money for and you get a product. Or you give money for a movie and you get to be on the red carpet or whatever, right? You get a reward for it. And at that time, you think during reward-based, before the equity, things that we take for granted are smartwatches, 3D printers, drones, and even in VR headsets, like the Oculus headset, which is the example I use a lot, is All that came to market because people were early adopters and said, I want to, and even people that VCs, let's say, that were going to be investing in 3D printers, they invested in all the companies that were doing that to see which one made it, and then they would know which one would, because it validated the business. If they can go raise $1 million through reward base, they must know their product market fit, they know who they're, how to sell to their customers, they know stuff, right? And so, because they just really sold $1 million worth of product. And so, the Oculus headset, which is, the common thing in Meta these days, and right, this kid in a garage had developed that, raised a couple $1 million to get it through reward base, to get it to market. And I look at the Jobs Act, and this is a story I say, so they needed entrepreneurs to be able to break through and get to their customers to be investors, to get to their neighbors to be investors, to go to anybody to be investors. And and regular old people needed to be able to invest in something that could give them a bigger return than the stock market or real estate. Everything's risky, so it was, not any, and if the millionaires do this because they know they can make money, it's 3 times more profitable than the other asset classes, then why are we limiting the ability of other people to be able to do this, right? Stock market and crypto is 18. No income level, but we're limiting people in their ability to invest in entrepreneurs based on their income level. So let's take that off the table. Let's say we'll put some, guidelines in there and stuff like that, but let's let people invest in the entrepreneurs that they love that they can do, that, and let's let entrepreneurs raise capital from anybody. Let's democratize the access to capital and the ability to invest and make money. And that's when equity came out with the different ways, which is, it's every flavor of investment can be done now, based on that, or ways to raise capital because of the Jobs Act. And so the thing, so like, this was definitely not part of the conversation that was going on Capitol Hill. So this is my flavoring of what I think might have happened on Capitol Hill. So Oculus headset, let's say, you put $1,000 into that. 5 years later, when they raised a bunch of money, and then a few years after that, when Zuckerberg paid $800 million for them, for this company, this kid, right? He, made a lot of money. Well, what did you have if you put $1,000, gave him $1,000 for this headset? You had an obsolete piece of technology that wasn't even, you couldn't even donate it to Goodwill. It wouldn't even work, right? But if you had $1,000 of equity, of stock in that company before it got bought, what would that $1,000 be worth when it got bought at $800 million? Would it be worth $8,000? Would it be worth $80,000? We don't know because you weren't allowed to do it. But now we know, right? And so that's what this is, the revolution that we're in, the financial revolution.
Excellent. Well, you talked about the Jobs Act was the catalyst for the first book. So talk about what led you to the next book.
So the first book was it's a very dense business book, right? I came to realize a couple of things. One, that angel investing was a secret, right? So you write a book about angel investing, if they don't know about it, how do they even know to look for a book on angel investing, right? If I wrote it and said, how to invest in a company before it grows up and gets big and gets bought or goes public and make money doing it, right? But that would be like a really bad, take up, like fine print on your cover. And so, and I knew that one of the things I started to realize over the last couple of years, that there's a big wealth gap for women-led households. Women tend to live longer than men, so they end up in impoverished or less economics as they age out, because and women and people of color were not allowed to get loans in their own names until the 1980s, when the credit bill passed. I mean, it was a Supreme Court decision in the 70s for women not to be discriminated against. And so you think about it, with a lot of the middle class was created after World War II, there was a whole segments of the population that weren't allowed to participate in that, and in the GI Bill or anything like that, right? And so if you couldn't start getting money for a business or buy your first house in your own name until the 1980s, then there's generations of gap. And so crowdfunding to me was a great way for people, an on-ramp for people that want to create financial independence, feel like that, oh, I don't have enough money, I'm not a millionaire adjacent, how can I invest this way so I can start, generating wealth for my retirement? I've been shut out. The real estate market is so expensive to try to buy a rental home in now. We've learned that that's not a guarantee as it used to be. And so this just, it really needed to be something that was digestible for anybody. And so this book, as you can tell, it's a lot different in the size, and like that other one is 300 something pages. This is 198 pages or 100 something pages. This one is told through the lens of a person going through the process of figuring out, should I, how do I, and then doing it. And so it's intended to be where people can go, oh, I understand. I think I could do this. This sounds kind of like it could be kind of fun. And we know, and I also learned that millennials Gen Xers they want to invest with impact. They want to have an impact with their money, and so they are discouraged about what the future holds. Oh, my parents worked 40 years, and look at what they have. Why do I want to be in corporate world? And so instead of jumping and trying to start another business if you don't really know what it is, keep your day job, keep your benefits, right? And take your extra money, your liquidity, and start putting it into businesses that you're passionate about. And you get your own jazz because you're investing in these things and you're following it, and better than it's just a different way. So it's just really, I needed to have something that would be a catalyst for the training, catalyst for the conversations that we're having now, and this was the book for that.
So you tell this through the lens of this fictional person, Jane. How did, during your writing process, how did that change the way you told this, how you presented the information? Because now you had to say, this is another person, not Karen.
Yeah.
And she is going through this process. So did that change very much the way you presented the information?
My friend Q just walked in. His wife Nora was influential in that, okay? Because she's a quick read, and she's also sort of in my target market of that age woman kind of a thing, that up and coming striver. And so I had put Jane in it, and when she read it, she was like, I really like Jane. There's not enough Jane in this. You need to add Jane. So it went from being 98 pages to 198 pages by me going, and I had to add little inside secrets that are in there. By me going through and going, okay, instead of saying go do XYZ, let's have Jane figure out she needs to do XYZ. How does Jane figure out to do XYZ? So telling it and changing it and going back through and rewriting it so it did have her exercising the tips, so it is me saying, and this is why it's important, and then Jane does it, right? And so it was, and it became really fun, and that's why I really love this book. That one's going to be rewritten next year to have more of Jack's story, because Jack is in that book as the making of a compassionate capitalist, but he's not all through it, right?
We're not going to do Dick and Jane? We're not going to do that?
No, they're all Jane.
All of us of an age, we know that, right?
Right. Well, that's where the title, okay, so the title followed Jane's journey, right? So I had, I forget what originally, I had a couple different sample titles that had Jane in there, and I put it out on Facebook to my friends, and I said, pick which title you like. And somebody said, oh, it sounds like, remember, see Dick and Jane's follow, and I was like, oh, okay, follow Jane's journey. And I did a hybrid of the suggestions. See how a new generation builds wealth with purpose, passion, and profit. So it is definitely within, you caught on. So yeah, so I'm very excited about this and being relatable, and I'm getting really great feedback. And another book that I'm actually working on now is about scaling a business to go to exit, and that's got Jade and John in there as
Okay.
entrepreneurs.
A lot of J's there.
Yeah, I figured go with the theme. I mean, right?
Well,
I'm fond of J's.
so people, you should buy the book, but not to give away too much, but to give everybody a sample. I love this page, and that's why you put it up front here. Inside secret number 1 of many, right? If the greatest way to create wealth is by being a successful business owner, the second best way to create wealth must be as the financial backer. the investors in those businesses. When in reality, owning a piece of multiple businesses, compounding your investments from the ground floor to the roof, really is the greatest way to create wealth because of the legacy of impact you leave behind. So for everyone out there, there's a lot more of that in the book. Before we got anything else you want to say?
No, I appreciate it. It's available on Amazon. Folks here,
Available everywhere on Amazon. There we go.
Yeah, and soon we'll be up so the bookstores can order it, and then I'll be working on doing a road show going around and go to different places and do small versions of these in bookstores and other economic development authorities.
Thank you for being here at Launch Fayette.
Yeah, so.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for, I
There's
appreciate
Rands. Go ahead, I'll let you read.
So, just so, because I understand this is what you're supposed to do at book signing.
Is that a hard copy?
Yeah, so it's available in a hard copy and paperback. The other one was only paperback because back when that was done, you didn't have all the options yet and so Audible comes soon. I'm working through that, but you realize as you go through on Audible, like things that are in parentheses, it doesn't say, you have to tell it to say parentheses. Like if you've got an acronym that you then have it spelled out in parentheses. So I'm like listening to the thing going through, and I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I gotta go open up the book, go back to where it's following on the book and actually tell it, go in and change it so it reads parentheses, in parentheses. Anyway. Okay, so, I thought I would tell you a little bit about the story of Jane as part of sort of the wrap up here. And, Inside Secret number 2. So if you have your book, you can go to page 6 and follow along. Right, so the story of Jane. Jane is a nurse practitioner, a dedicated professional who works long hours caring for others and earns a good salary of $140,000 per year. But despite her hard work, she feels like she's constantly falling short in growing her wealth. Jane has accumulated $40,000 over the years, but it doesn't feel like that is enough to make a real impact on the wealth she needs for her retirement and what she dreams of leaving for her future generations. Even though she's been working hard, it feels like Jane is stuck in a system where the tools for wealth building are out of her reach. Jane's kids are out of college, so she doesn't have the added expense of helping them with tuition or living expenses. Her daughter is married, and she blessed Jane with her first grandson a couple of years ago. She also works in marketing. Jane's son is building a career in software engineering. Jane knows she needs cash on hand and savings for those unexpected life events. She also knows that you can't save your way to wealth, so she imagines the possibility of putting $20,000 to work in investments that give short-term income with upside potential for bigger payback. Jane had heard that real estate was a great way to an income-producing investment that also brings long-term financial value. However, the reality is that the home price is continually rising. She can't afford to buy a fixer-upper property, much less start building a real estate portfolio leveraged with bank mortgages. She had bought stocks now and then when she heard good news about the company or a tip from a doctor at the hospital. The stock market may not be as costly as getting involved in real estate, but it was complicated to build a well-performing portfolio because so many factors that drove stocks up and down were beyond the company's control and definitely beyond anything Jane could do other than try to predict the best time to sell or to buy. She had heard a few people talk about investing in crypto, digital coins like Bitcoin. It seemed very promising. Celebrities were talking about it and endorsing different platforms. She set up a digital wallet on one of the promos and took advantage of their $100 credit promo. And then Jane quickly realized that it was all about getting in on the ground floor because the value came in scarcity, not usually building anything. Jane loved watching Shark Tank. She often wished she could have an idea that could become a profitable company. She never got an idea that she loved so much that she wanted to leave her job. When she saw the headlines that one of the famous sharks had invested in a crowdfunding platform, she had an aha moment. If the super wealthy choose to invest in entrepreneur innovations because they believe they can make money at it, and the most famous billionaire entrepreneurs that become sharks invested in them along the way and reap those financial rewards too, and anybody could do crowdfund investing, and Mr. Wonderful thinks it's a good investment for him, I should explore the possibility. Jane considered the possibility of investing in small businesses and startups she believed in to make money in a meaningful way. Rather than needing hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase a rental property or a few stocks, she could invest small amounts, $1,000 to $2,000, into multiple companies, different small businesses and startups that were solving different problems or having an impact that aligned with Jane's values. Jane was excited about the potential of finding investment opportunities that align with her values, perhaps a healthcare startup that aims to improve patient care, or a tech company focused on sustainability. Over time, as these companies grow and expand, so will her investment. If the business succeeds, she succeeds as well. Such is the power of crowdfund investing. It allows people like Jane, those with drive, vision, and desire, to leap the wealth gap without quitting their job to start a company or having hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest. Crowdfund investors may participate in the same innovative opportunities as formerly reserved for the ultra-wealthy. By starting small, Jane could build a diverse portfolio, reduce risk, and share in the potential rewards when a company grows and succeeds. The beauty of crowdfunding is that it democratizes access to capital for entrepreneurs and wealth-building tactics for all investors. High-growth investment opportunities are no longer accessible only to those already wealthy. Whether you have $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000 per company to invest, crowdfunding also allows you to invest in the companies and industries that excite you. So, inside secret number 2, crowdfunding opens up a new world of potential, one where your money can work for you just as it does for angel investors with millions in the bank. It's not about giving everyday people, it's about giving everyday people a chance to be a part of something bigger than themselves and grow their wealth while supporting innovative companies that solve real-world problems they care about. So, with that, thank you all for coming. And do you have any questions? Anybody got any questions? Okay. Everybody got pizza? Yeah. All right, well, okay, there's a question in the back. Go ahead.
So if someone was interested in becoming a crowdfund investor, what would be some steps that you would ask them to take or advise them to take?
So, buy my book, take my course, and we will be, like I said, there's information up here on the front I can pass around for information about the courses. But I mean, the best thing is to, you get started by like go sign up on the crowdfunding sites. The one that I talk about here, the Mr. Wonderful bought, Start Engine, and there's WeFunder, MicroInvest, Republic are the top ones. You can set up an account, start looking around at the different companies that are doing things that you like. You do it just like you do other things. You put a little heart on it, and it will. You don't have to put any money in. You just sign up, and and they'll send you then you get updates about that company, and you get in the database of the overall. The crowdfunding platforms are not allowed to raise capital for the companies. Companies are on those platforms as a regulatory environment, where it files the paperwork with the SEC for them and keeps track of the proper filing, that they've got the right financial documents and regulatory documents done. It's not a validation of the business. You still have to do your own due diligence on it. But you go in there and you see they have videos. They typically have all their business plan, all the information, and start watching them. And part of my recommendation in the book, you learn about this thing called the Angel Profitability Blueprint. And so when you find a company that you go, wow, that is really exciting what they're doing. I love it. I really, clean water. We need clean water. I love what this company's doing to get clean water. And then you go and find a company on all the other platforms or other things that are also doing clean water. So you pick you find the one that's in the stage or in the sector of the industry. It's consumer based, it's industrial based, whatever. And you find the one that you think is doing it best based on comparison of those companies. That kind of a thing. And then there are there's niche platforms too. There's ones that are just, life sciences and cancer treatments. There's some that are just, environment and sustainable. There's some that are very niche as well. And so just find the ones and, start learning and getting familiar with the program and the process that way. Anything else? Need some folks? Yeah, hey!
You're saying something about a niche platform. What's your thought about the Fearless Fund and that whole conundrum that happened?
Well, so they're not a crowdfunding platform for one. So Fearless Fund is some black women started it, and with the intention because diverse founders, people of color, get about 1.5% to 2% of all the capital that come out of the angel investors, and even less of the venture capital. Women entrepreneurs, founders get. I thought the number was had reached up to 12%. It's peaked in 21, and black founders were getting about 6%, and women were getting about 12%. It's now dropped back down to the prior levels, and women get about 6% of the capital that it gets put into companies. They get more on the crowdfunding platforms because there's less of the gauntlet to go through to get to in the angel rooms. And so Fearless Fund was established to specifically for black women, to both kind of sides of that equation, to be able to get their early startup money in the form of grants or low interest loans, so they could get a company started and therefore be able to then be qualified to get into the angel groups. Angel groups require you to have a working product and at least $100,000 in revenue for the most part. Very few of them do something at the seed idea stage. And so if you don't have pre-seed money, you can't get to the seed money that angels do, and you can't get to the Series A that goes on, which is, a lot of this is going to be Greek to you. You've never looked into this stuff, but all the different levels of capital as a company grows, okay, till they get to the venture capital. And so this very beginning part of it, which is why what Steve and I are working on is so important, at the grassroots level. And so when that stuff happened with the universities, the guy that sued the universities for offering programs and incentives for diverse students to be able to come there, targeted the Fearless Fund for the same reason. And they ended up settling out of court. And being able to, and now they don't say that, they avoid that kind of a conversation, but they are, for disadvantaged founders that have struggle, they can do it based on, if you don't, like I talked about earlier, if you didn't grow up in a community that had wealth, you didn't go to MIT or Yale, to have a network of high net worth friends and folks in your frat or whatever, you still need access to capital. So it's to me, the democratization of the capital markets, crowdfunding is that. Women and people of color do well on that because it's focused on the business opportunity and not any kind of bias that they may have with the folks in the room. Any other questions? I can handle any question. All right, well, hopefully you got pizza. If you haven't got your books yet, we have them available up here. And we take pictures in front of this.